The Path to Knowledge and Cultivation, reading Herman Melville's Two Mirrors, Bartleby the Scrivener and Billy Budd, Sailor. In life, we often face numerous questions. Why do I live this way? Why is the world so unfair? Why don't others understand me? What significance do I hold in this society? Sometimes these questions feel so vague and suffocating that we push them aside. The words knowledge and cultivation can sometimes feel like high walls, barriers that seem difficult to overcome. However, in truth, knowledge and cultivation are not distant or the exclusive domain of exceptional people. These are powers born from understanding the world around us, empathizing with others, and reflecting deeply on our own lives. And one of the most powerful and beautiful ways to nurture this power is through reading. Reading is an experience that allows us to enter another's life and see the world through their eyes. It is like time travel or glimpsing into someone else's thoughts. Today, I would like to introduce two stories that, despite being written long ago, still provoke deep thought. These are the works of the American literary giant Herman Melville, Bartleby the Scrivener and Billy Budd, Sailor. In spite of their short length, these two works vividly depict the essence of human existence, the contradictions of society, and the complex emotions we experience while living. Now, let us explore the wisdom we can gain from these two stories. 1. I would prefer not to. The mysterious resistance in Bartleby the Scrivener. Bartleby the Scrivener is considered one of Melville's most unique and profound stories. This novel is set in a lawyer's office on Wall Street in New York. The practical-minded lawyer who values money and efficiency hires Bartleby, a quiet and diligent scrivener. Initially, Bartleby proves to be highly competent, meeting the lawyer's expectations in every way. However, one day, when the lawyer asks Bartleby to examine some papers, Bartleby offers an unexpected response: I would prefer not to. This short, emotionless sentence shakes the lawyer's world. Bartleby refuses to obey, but he does not lash out or argue. Instead, he calmly and firmly expresses his refusal without any emotion. Initially startled, the lawyer tries to understand Bartleby's behavior. He tries to fire Bartleby, but Bartleby remains in the office without causing any disturbances. He merely sits silently, pale-faced, gazing at the wall. The lawyer cannot understand him, cannot persuade him, nor can he force him out. Ultimately, the lawyer chooses to move his office rather than endure Bartleby's presence. However, Bartleby is left without a place to go and ends up in prison, where he refuses to eat and quietly dies. What can we learn from this story? The meaning of refusal. Bartleby's "I would prefer not to" is not a simple refusal. It is an act of rejection against the world, without logic or reason, simply by his existence. He does not conform to the values of productivity and efficiency demanded by society. You, too, may have moments when you feel life is unfair or situations when you are forced to do things you dislike. Bartleby's behavior represents an original form of resistance against such imposed ways of living. Sometimes, silence and indifference can become the most powerful messages. The limits of human understanding. The lawyer makes every effort to understand Bartleby, trying to sympathize with him, getting angry, and attempting to persuade him. Yet Bartleby never reveals the inner workings of his mind. This illustrates the difficulty of fully understanding others. Sometimes, the actions or thoughts of others may seem completely incomprehensible to us. Bartleby the Scrivener depicts the human struggle when we encounter such an inexplicable individual and face the frustration of failed comprehension. If you've ever felt misunderstandings or frustration in your relationships, you might find insights into the complexity of human connections through the relationship between Bartleby and the lawyer. Alienation and isolation. In the end, Bartleby is alienated by society and meets death. He does not communicate with anyone and shows no signs of desire. His existence symbolizes the isolation and alienation increasingly seen in modern society. Many people live alone amidst loneliness in their own corners. Bartleby's story encourages us to look again at those who may be becoming isolated in our indifferent world and to reflect on the importance of human solidarity and communication. Bartleby's story does not offer easy answers but instead invites us to ask ourselves questions. Questions like, in what way am I living my life? How well do I understand others? And what do I truly desire in my life? Through these questions, we can go beyond simply reading a story and develop the power of self-reflection and a deeper understanding of the world. 2. The tragic collision of justice and law in Billy Budd, Sailor. Billy Budd, Sailor is a work completed by Melville near the end of his life, with his literary depth and insights into humanity. This story is set aboard an English naval ship during the late 18th century, amidst the French Revolution. The protagonist, Billy Budd, is a young seaman with a pure and beautiful appearance. He is loved by all as the handsome Billy, but he has one fatal flaw. When extremely nervous or angry, he stutters and cannot express himself clearly. One day, a greedy and malicious naval officer named Claggart appears on the ship. Claggart envies Billy's purity and popularity and torments him. Claggart eventually falsely accuses Billy of plotting rebellion. The ship's captain, Captain Vere, hears Claggart's accusation and summons Billy to investigate the truth. Under Claggart's malicious gaze and the accusation, Billy, who is highly agitated, stutters and cannot adequately express his innocence. In his fury, Billy unintentionally strikes Claggart, killing him instantly. Captain Vere, who knows Billy's innocence, falls into deep agony. Billy's action was clearly self-defense without malice, but from a legal standpoint, he has committed the crime of killing his superior officer. At that time, rebellion in the Navy was a serious issue, so Vere faces a terrible choice between his personal conscience and his duty as an officer. Ultimately, Captain Vere sentences Billy to capital punishment by hanging. Billy accepts the sentence with composure and, as he dies, says, "God bless Captain Vere," ending his life with purity. What can we learn from this story? The collision between justice and law. Billy Budd's story vividly illustrates how deeply the values of justice and law can collide. We often have an instinctive sense of right and wrong within us. However, the laws created to maintain society may not always align with these feelings. Captain Vere, who knows Billy's innocence, must execute him to uphold the legal system. You may have also encountered situations where something was not illegal but felt morally wrong, or where something was legally correct but difficult to morally accept. This story encourages deep reflection on what values should be prioritized in such situations or how to balance law and morality. The clash between purity and evil. Billy Budd represents a soul free of falsehood and corruption. In contrast, Claggart is a character filled with jealousy and malice. Their confrontation reveals the fundamental clash between good and evil in the world. Sometimes, it may seem like innocence is trampled by evil without reason. Billy's tragic fate raises the question, is the world fair to the good? It also reminds us of the tragic reality that purity does not always triumph over the world. However, Billy's blessing for Captain Vere at the moment of death paradoxically highlights the inherent beauty of innocence. The weight of duty and responsibility. Captain Vere's agony demonstrates the weight of duty and responsibility borne by a leader. He must make a lonely decision, transcending personal conscience and human compassion, in the face of greater obligations such as the order of the ship and the security of the nation. The harsh reality is that a leader's decisions cannot be swayed by individual emotions, and sometimes harsh sacrifices must be made for the greater good. Perhaps one day you will have to make difficult decisions for your family, organization, or broader community. At such times, Captain Vere's inner struggle can provide you with profound insight. Billy Budd's story makes us confront the cold reality that life may not always be just. Yet, it also shows the nobility of the human soul that remains pure even amid injustice, helping us to recalibrate our inner moral compass. 3. The connection between the two stories and wisdom for our lives. Although Bartleby the Scrivener and Billy Budd, Sailor differ in setting and characters, they both reveal Melville's profound insights into human existence and society through shared themes. First, both stories deal with inexplicable beings. Bartleby causes confusion around him with his senseless refusal, while Billy Budd is condemned to tragedy due to his inability to explain himself clearly because of his stutter. These illustrate how difficult it is for humans to completely understand others. We often reject or criticize what we cannot understand. However, Melville seems to encourage us to discover the mystery and complexity of human existence in such inexplicable phenomena. Second, they share the common theme of the collision between the individual and the system. Bartleby resists the capitalist efficiency system, while Billy Budd is sacrificed before the strict naval legal system. Both works show how fragile individuals can be in the face of large societal systems and how systems can erode individual dignity and human values. At the same time, Bartleby's passive resistance and Billy's calm acceptance suggest how precious it is to strive to maintain personal dignity within the system. Third, both stories leave a deep impression through their tragic endings. Bartleby dies alone in prison, and Billy Budd is hanged. These tragic conclusions remind us that life does not always end fairly or happily. Yet, these tragedies provoke deeper reflections on life's contradictions and injustices, invoking human compassion and introspection. Reading as a compass for mapping life. In this way, Herman Melville's two short stories are not mere entertainment. They are powerful tools for confronting life's complex problems, exploring the human heart, and examining the hidden sides of our society. Some may say, reading books is hard to understand, and the stories seem unrelated to me, so it's not fun. However, reading is not like schoolwork, where the goal is to find correct answers. Books do not force you. If you slowly turn the pages and listen to the stories the author tells, you will eventually find yourself empathizing with the feelings of characters in the story. At some moment, you will realize that their situations are just like parts of your own life. Reading Bartleby the Scrivener and Billy Budd, Sailor is a process of realizing that building knowledge and cultivation is not an enormous task. It is simply the training to deeply think about what is happening around us or within our hearts. Through these two works, you will gain the following abilities. Expanding empathy. Experiencing the struggles and choices of characters in novels indirectly helps you broaden your understanding of others' lives and emotions. This greatly aids communication and relationships in reality. Enhancing critical thinking. Following the questions and social issues raised by the author, you can ask yourself, what is truly right? And how should I think? And find answers, cultivating your thinking abilities. Deepening understanding of self and the world. The conflicts and choices of characters in novels often mirror our inner worlds and the outer world. This helps us understand ourselves more deeply and gain insight into how the world operates. Improving language and expression skills. Consistently reading literary works naturally enhances vocabulary and sentence structure. This goes beyond simply speaking well, allowing you to express your thoughts and feelings more clearly and effectively. Reading goes beyond simply acquiring information. It nurtures the power to understand the world, empathize with others, and reflect on oneself. Knowledge and cultivation are not just lists of facts stored in the mind, they are the wisdom and attitudes for living in the world. I am confident that these two works by Herman Melville will serve as an excellent compass for taking the first step toward this journey. Have the courage to open a book. Within it, you will discover a new world you never knew existed. And in this world, you will gain the wisdom to live a richer, more meaningful life.